Welcome to The Explainer. Millions of us play Battle Royale games every single day. But have you ever stopped to think about what really makes them tick? Today, we're going to deconstruct that complex machine and look at the engine that truly drives them.
So just how big are we talking? Well, get a load of this number. Back in 2020, the gaming industry pulled in a mind-blowing $159.3 billion in revenue. And get this, mobile games, where a ton of these battle royales live, made up almost half of that entire pie. It's huge.
It's not just code, right? It's this carefully engineered mix of psychology, economics, and, of course, game design. And that's what we're going to do today. We're peeling back all those layers to understand the mechanics, the motivations, and the calculated chaos that makes every match so compelling. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with the money side of things, then get into the psychology of why we buy stuff in-game. After that, we'll look at what players really want, the whole skill versus luck debate, and finally, how these games are basically living, breathing worlds. Let's get into it. Okay, first up, the billion-dollar experience. See, to really get these games, you gotta understand they're not just products anymore. They're part of what's called the experience economy. Right, so what does that even mean? It means the goal isn't just to sell you a game one time and call it a day. No way. It's about selling you these countless, unique, personal, and unforgettable moments inside the game. It's about creating memories, that clutch victory, that perfectly timed shot, that you'll always connect with your time spent playing. Okay, so if it's all about the experience, how do they make money? Well, mostly through virtual goods. And that brings up a really interesting question. Why on earth do we spend real money on things that, well, don't actually exist? So check this out. A really smart master's thesis on battle royales uses this model you see here. It's called the theory of consumption values to break down exactly why we spend our money. Now, I know it looks a little academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. All these things on the right, like how cool an item looks, create different kinds of value for us as players. And those values over on the left, like social or emotional value, are what finally push us to click buy. Let's start with conditional value. This is all about timing and scarcity. You know that feeling, right? That limited time holiday skin drops and you just feel like you have to get it. That's conditional value. It's valuable because the situation, the event, makes it feel essential right now, before it's gone. Next up, emotional value. And this one is huge. It's all about how an item makes you feel. It's that weapon skin or that outfit that just feels so you. It lets you express yourself. So you're not just buying pixels. You're basically buying a little piece of your virtual identity. And then, of course, there's good old monetary value. This one's easy. It's that feeling of getting a great deal. You see a bundle of items and think, hey, that's a bargain. What's super interesting is that the research showed this is a massive driver for millennials in particular. We just love feeling like we're getting our money's worth. So on top of those main values, the study found a few other things that have a huge direct impact on whether we buy. Things like how trendy an item is, how much we can customize it, and just the raw visual quality. These aren't just small factors, they're major reasons we decide to spend. All right, so we've talked about the money, but what about the game itself? The mechanics, the feel of it? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because there seems to be a major disconnect between what developers are building and what players are saying they actually want. Okay, so take a look at these two charts. The one on the left shows how often developers put certain combat mechanics in their games. You see the usual suspects, right? Reloading, aiming down sights, they're in almost every game. But look at the chart on the right. This shows what players said was important to them. And when you start comparing the two, whoa, you see some pretty big gaps. Here's a perfect example. Grenades. The study found that more than half of all players they asked said that having a variable grenade range was important. But how many big games actually have that feature? Only a tiny handful.
It's a classic case of what players are asking for, not always showing up in the final product.
And this quote from a player in the survey just nails it. They said, "What I really look for in a shooter is a sense of speed and momentum. See? It's about the feel. Players are chasing this feeling of flow and control, and that feeling comes from these specific mechanics that, a lot of the time, just aren't there."
So, if the game's feel is so important, does winning just come down to who has the best skill? Is it that simple? Well, not exactly. Let's talk about the role of randomness, or what we might call calculated chaos. Think about it. Every match you play is this constant battle, this tug of war. On one side, you've got player skill, your aim, your strategy, your reflexes. And on the other side, you've got all the unpredictable stuff the game intentionally throws your way. It's all about that balance. In fact, research on PUBG actually broke this down into what they call the 4 pillars of randomness. These are the core systems designed to mix things up. Where you land and find loot is random, where those high-tier airdrops come down is random, where the circle shrinks is random, and even your weapon's bullet spread has a bit of randomness. It's all designed to make sure no 2 games are ever the same. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that luck isn't an accident. It's a core part of the design. The research actually concluded that a player's chance to win is just as dependent on randomness as it is on their skill. This calculated chaos is what keeps the game exciting for everyone, not just the pros. Okay, let's pull all these threads together for our final section. When you combine that experience economy, the psychology of buying, the specific gameplay mechanics, and that calculated randomness, what you get isn't just a product you play and finish. You get a living ecosystem. And I mean, it's always changing. The developers are constantly pushing out patches, and the community, well, the community always has opinions. This Reddit comment right here about a terrible update is the perfect example. It's this living, breathing, sometimes angry conversation between the players and the creators that literally shapes the game's future.
And the depth of that constant change is just incredible. You might be thinking, a file path? Really? But this is so cool. This tiny technical detail shows just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Developers are constantly tweaking everything on a super granular level, from weapon stats all the way down to the name of a medal you can earn. And all this constant change creates a massive professional esports scene. For these pro players, keeping up with every single patch and every new mechanic isn't just a hobby. As you can see from these tournament prize pools, it's a high-stakes career where knowing the game's current state can literally be worth millions of dollars. So think about it. From the tiny psychological trick that makes you want that limited time skin, to the huge community debates over how grenades should work, all the way to the calculated randomness that decides where the final circle ends up, it is so clear that this isn't just a game, it's a meticulously designed, ever-changing machine. So the real question is, the next time you drop into a match, what are you going to see differently?